Okay, so we're going to begin a lesson on cellular respiration this week. And in order to understand cellular respiration, we have to take a look at the mitochondria. Cellular respiration is the process of taking our food after it's been digested. Remember, a while back we talked about the whole process of digestion, how it goes through our stomach, and once it's in our small intestines, it gets absorbed into the bloodstream. At that point, it's really tiny molecules, and they're going to go to the mitochondria. And that's where they're going to get turned into ATP, which is the primary energy source for all of our cells. So let's take a look first at the mitochondria itself, though. We need to take a look at the structure of the mitochondria. So on your worksheet, here is a picture of a mitochondrion. And if you notice, it's mitochondrion. Mitochondria is plural, mitochondrion is singular. But they're both talking about the same thing. All right. So let's take a look at the structure. One thing about mitochondria, remember when we were first identifying the organelles, I told you to look for this wavy inner membrane. So first, let's remember that there are two membranes. It's a double membrane organelle. There's an outer membrane and there's an inner membrane. So outer membrane, inner membrane. And then in between the two of them, there's a space. And I mean, that space occurs all over. So anywhere that there's space between the outer membrane and the inner membrane, we call that the intermembrane space. Pretty simple, right? Intermembrane space. Okay? Now let's take a look at this inner membrane. This inner membrane has lots and lots of folds. Do you see those? Folds in and out and in and out. We're going to talk eventually about this little part of the mitochondria, almost like little peninsulas sticking out towards the outer membrane. We call those the cristae. Let's see if I can. Okay, so if you look down in the reading, you'll see that it talks about the cristae, so you should be able to spell it. Right down here, C-R-I-S-T-A-E. So this is the inner membrane where it's folded. And specifically, it's the folds that reach out to the outer membrane. So this right here would not be the cristae. But this would be the cristae. So it's showing you three of them. Also, interestingly enough, the mitochondria is believed to have been its own independent organism long time ago when there were only single-celled organisms on our planet. And eventually it got swallowed up by another living organism, and instead of eating it, used it symbiotically. Remember we talked about symbiotic relationships? So it used that mitochondria, this living organism, symbiotically to get energy. And eventually it just, through evolution, became part of all living organisms, except prokaryotes. Bacteria don't have mitochondria. So inside these mitochondria, they have their own little protein factories called ribosomes. And also they have their own DNA. It's called mitochondrial DNA. So we've got ribosomes, we've got DNA, and then all of this space inside that inner membrane, that space is called the matrix. So let's assign some coloring. Here I'm going to pull up a different screen so you can read this as I do it. Alright, so let's color the outer membrane orange. Let's outline the inner membrane in purple and color the matrix. Let's color it a light color. So let's say like green or something like that if you can find it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few minutes, push pause, and color those parts of your mitochondria. Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to focus just on our mitochondria again. Let's take a look at these questions at the bottom of the page and answer them together. So what is the name of the process that produces ATP? Think about that. What do we call that process of making ATP in the mitochondria? It's cellular respiration. So the process for making ATP is called cellular respiration. Let's take a look at number 2. What other cellular structures or organelles can produce ATP? I'm going to give you a hint. The main goal isn't making ATP. Instead, that ATP is used to build other molecules. Hopefully you said photosynthesis, because that's what we were talking about before. So, I'm sorry, for photosynthesis, the organelle, though, is chloroplast. Sorry. So the chloroplast also can make ATP. Remember, in the thylakoid makes ATP. Now, that ATP is saved inside the chloroplast and used to make, glucose. In this case, though, for the mitochondria, the ATP is used throughout the cell to do all kinds of jobs. Let's take a look at this one. What cells have mitochondria? Kind of tricky. All eukaryotic cells. Now, interestingly enough, red blood cells don't have mitochondria, but almost all eukaryotic cells do. So let's, if we look at it like animal cells, plant cells, fungal cells, those are all eukaryotic cells. So you could put, for a list of different types of cells below, you would put like plant cells, animal cells, fungal cells, and even protists. Protista, remember that kingdom, Protista? The protists, those are single-celled organisms. They're made of one cell, but they're more complicated than bacteria, and they have the mitochondria in them also. So you could list any of those as the types of cells that have mitochondria. So then, after that explanation, what cells do not have mitochondria? That would be bacteria or prokaryotes. So those are the cells that do not have mitochondria.